let's talk about one of the most haunted dolls to ever exist. So if you didn't know, I'm a big fan of the supernatural. Ghosts, spirits, stuff like that. I love it. Yeah, I know, I'm weird. I 100% believe in it. There are still many things that are unexplained by science, so you never know. Anyways, I want to start off this whole horror saga by talking about probably the most well-known haunted doll, Annabelle. And I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, well, I've seen the Annabelle movies, and that's cool. I like those movies too. However, like most adaptations, there were liberties taken. The story of Annabelle was sensationalized for the screen. So first, I'll tell you about the true story behind Annabelle, and then I'll talk about how the story was changed for the big screen. Okay, so this story is set back in the 1970s. Our main character is Donna. She was a student who was just about to go off to college to study medicine. Her mother wanted to get her a leaving present, so she went to a hobby store and picked up a Raggedy Ann doll for her. Apparently Donna was into dolls because she was delighted with this gift. Yes, I know Annabelle looks very different here to the movie one. I'll get to that later. So Donna ended up getting a nice apartment with her friend Angie, and they brought the doll with them. This was a big mistake because the doll would soon become a great source of fear for the girls. So at first, Annabelle would only make small movements, like she would be left on the bed in the morning, and in the evening, when the girls came back from college, the doll would be on the floor. But because these movements were so small, the girls could have just been misremembering where they put her. However, when their friend Louis came to visit, he became very suspicious of the doll. The two girls told him about Annabelle's movements, and he was like, yeah, that thing is possessed. You need to throw it away. But Donna and Angie didn't buy any of it. They were more progressive with their views, and they thought that they were the reason the doll moved so much. So after a few days, things started to become more sinister. The girls started to find notes written on parchment paper around the house. The notes said things like, help us and help Louis. If that wasn't strange enough, none of the girls had ever used parchment paper before. So it became obvious something abnormal was going on. Even after this, they still wanted to keep the doll. And this just resulted in even more uncanny events. After a long day at work, Donna came home to see Annabelle on her bed with blood in her hands. Like, blood was literally pouring out of the doll. This scared Donna enough that she decided to call a medium. You know those people that can apparently talk to their grandfather? Yeah, those ones. The medium sat down with the girls and she told them that there was indeed a spirit in the doll. But a young girl around 7 years old who had apparently been found dead in the apartment many years ago. The spirit ended up staying in the apartment, and when the girls moved in, she bonded with the Raggedy Ann doll because she grew fond of it. This made the girls feel sorry for the doll, so they decided to keep it, and they actually ended up treating the doll like a real human. They fed it, spoke to it, and they even took it out of the apartment for walks. Unfortunately, things only got worse for the friends as they both started to get nightmares and bad visions of Annabelle harming them. However, it wasn't until they were attacked by the doll that they decided to seek proper help. Angie and Louis were spending some time together when they heard movements in Donna's room. The strange thing was, she wasn't at home. They were frozen in fear. At first they were concerned about an intruder, but they quickly realized that the movements were in fact Annabelle's. Louis looked inside Donna's room and there was no one inside, just the doll who was sitting on the chair, instead of the bed where she should have been. He moved forward towards Annabelle and a tense feeling crept over him. He soon started to feel pain on his chest. Then he realized that there was a series of claw marks on his body, like someone had leapt at him and roughly scratched him. No one was in the room, so he knew that the marks must have come from Annabelle. What was even stranger about these scratches was that they healed straight away, and within just 2 days, there was no trace of them at all. After this, Donna and Angie decided to call the world-renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. When the Warrens investigated Annabelle, they determined that there was no little girl in that doll. A demon was attached to it. The Warrens said that demons don't possess items or things, they possess people. The demon's goal was to take possession over Donna's soul. The Warrens asked the priest to exorcise the apartment, ridding it of evil, and they acquired the doll from the girls. But that wasn't the end. Out of fear of what the doll would do in the car, the Warrens decided to drive back home through the back roads to avoid any possible accidents. And though they were kind of successful in preventing any disasters, the car engine would repeatedly stall, the brakes would fail, and the power steering wouldn't work. They were able to remedy this briefly with holy water, but the demon was apparently just too strong. Once the Warrens arrived home, Ed put the doll on his desk, thinking that she'd be safe there for a little while. Soon, she showed them what she was really made of. Annabelle was seen rising above the desk, levitating on multiple occasions. Soon, that activity slowed down and stopped, and the Warrens thought that perhaps the demon had quietened. But she was soon found in different rooms of the houses, moving around, and when the Warrens put her in one place, she would quickly be found in another. Ed and Lorraine Warren called the priest, but he didn't seem to take it too seriously, and he literally just said to Annabelle that she couldn't hurt him because she was just a doll. That was a big mistake because he was in a car accident shortly after on the way home. The car turned over, the brakes failed, and his car was completely written off. Although the priest was badly hurt, he did survive. Fed up of the doll, the Warrens decided to build a glass case for Annabelle so she wouldn't be able to escape or hurt anyone else. The doll is part of the now closed Warrens Museum. A priest has to come and bless the box every week, and it even has a sign saying positively do not open. Even to this day, visitors claim to see Annabelle moving about, attempting to escape the clutches of the glass box. And that was the story of Annabelle. So let's address the elephant in the room. Why does the movie Annabelle look so different to the real Annabelle? If it wasn't obvious enough, the real Annabelle isn't a conventionally scary doll. The people behind the movie wanted to up the scare factor, so they created a new doll. I personally think the original is more scary because it wasn't made to be demon possessed. But if you look at the movie one, you'll be mad to buy that for your child. If you've seen the first Conjuring movie, then you probably know that this whole story essentially takes up 15 minutes of the whole movie. She really wasn't the focus. On the other hand, the Annabelle trilogy isn't connected to the original story at all. They are a solid set of films, but it's all made up. The second movie does provide a cool origin story, and the third movie is essentially a sequel to the first 50 minutes of The Conjuring, which is cool, so I definitely recommend you give them a watch. The order of the movies is a bit weird though. The second movie happens first chronologically, then it's Annabelle 1, and then it's the last one. Anyways, what did you think about the story of Annabelle? Shall I do more of these spooky horror story times, or was I doing the most? Was I doing too much? Do you know any other haunted dolls? And have you liked, shared, and subscribed? Have a great day.